Hey everyone, thanks so much for coming over to Out on a Limb with Gabby Allen. Um, so we did this before. And yeah, I kind of messed it up. I don't know exactly what happened. So we're here again. We're here again. We're here with Jill Marie. I'm so excited about having her on. We're going to have her do all the things. Hopefully we'll recapture all the awesome stuff we said last time. Hopefully we'll also say additional awesome things, that this is why we had to do it again, for the additional awesome things. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to have her answer our question, and then we're going to get rolling. So what is it that you do, and how do you do it?
Well, first of all, I think you just wanted to interview me a second time because you had so much fun.
I mean, really, we did have so much
I think
fun.
you just wanted me to come back on again. You can just ask me. You don't have to delete the video.
You found me out.
I figured you out.
Darn it.
So, what do I do and how do I do it? Back to the subject at hand. I write. I'm an author, and I write. Right now, I'm writing women's fiction and romance, rock and roll genre. And how I do it is one word and one page at a time. Yes. Usually pantsing, most of it, although I do believe in a good timeline. But basically, I just channel my inner demons and the experiences that I've had, friendships I've had, anything relatable that I can give to you as the reader, anything that makes sense to you, I try to put in the books to make these characters as realistic as I can.
That's awesome. So talk to me about rock and roll romance, because that was something that I had not necessarily heard of before, and I definitely want to see what your take on that is.
Okay, so rock and roll romance is a subgenre in the romance field, but basically it revolves around musicians, specifically rock and roll musicians, though you will see all different kinds of musical subgenres, like jazz and R&B and all sorts of things. So the concept is that your characters, either your antagonists or your protagonists, are musicians. In my case, rock stars. So I have the band poster on the wall behind me.
I love that. I love it so much.
Second is the name of the band, and it is a 5-book series. Each book in the series is about one of the musicians in the band. So that's kind of how it became the 5-book series that it is. There's 5 girls in the band. This is a little different than usual rock and roll romance genre, which involves the rock stars being the guys. It's very common for the rock stars to be men, and then for the women to be kind of the groupie, roadie, audience, kind of like swooning and whatever. This is kind of flips it on its head, because the girls are the ones, the ladies are the ones who are on stage under the hot lights working hard, and the guys are the ones who are kind of swooping in to potentially upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Okay. So I find that fascinating, because there, to me, there are so many. I'm trying to look up her name and I can't remember what it is right now. But there are so many women in rock that did not really get their due quite the way that they should have. I think, like I'm thinking like Lita Ford. I'm thinking, Joan Jett. And they were often like,
go back further, like Billie Holiday, and go back the earlier days of music where these women were incredible talents. Aretha Franklin, for a lot of her career, these are just incredibly talented women who kind of got short shrift, whose songs got sold to male artists, who kind of were passed over. And definitely Joan Jett, definitely like you said, Lita Ford is a great example. Chrissie Hynde, there's a lot of them in kind of the rock genre. Where Shirley Manson, if I have any like 90s music fans,
garbage. My thing.
The inspo for second.
I love garbage so hard. It's so funny because people, I can't find who I was thinking of, but like there were so many women, to me, telling stories through these songs, and they would kind of get shuffled into the pop. And not necessarily left in the rock, because they weren't. Hailstorm is another one that I love, that's current. And I actually saw Hailstorm and Lita Ford. I was like,
amazing.
Oh, okay, this is
another one,
jam.
Benatar. Yeah, like
Oh,
Pat
yes,
Benatar's on top 40, right? But she's an
absolutely.
incredible vocalist. These are
Yes,
women that have real chops and deserve to be taken seriously. So that's kind
yes.
of the impetus for second. Yeah.
I love that. So the decision to do that, was that something like, were you involved in rock stuff previously, or were you just that much in love with the music scene, or how did you decide that this was the genre that you wanted?
I'm just a fan, to be honest with you. I'm a lot of things. I am a lot of things. I am not a musician. I'm a chef.
Okay.
I'm an author. I'm a wife. I'm a, podcaster. I'm a lot of things, but I
Right.
am not a musician. My fourth grade flute teacher told me to quit. I am not,
Oh,
that's a serious story.
that's
So
horrible.
literally like 4 weeks in. So I didn't even
Oh,
get that far into messing up. But I love the expression of music, and not just rock music, but really any music that you can express yourself. And I feel like, the girls met and formed this band at a time in their adolescence when they were looking for a chance to rebel. They were looking for
yes,
something to set them apart from the other girls in their school.
right.
They wanted to upset expectations or subvert expectations
Yes,
because they don't look like rock stars. They
yeah,
they were smart. They had their wits about them. They weren't the
right.
typical like grunge kids that you would expect to
Yes,
start a garage band. And so they sort of struck out on this as a way to express themselves, as a way to rebel a little bit, as a way to really be who they wanted to be. And
right.
then after 20 years of plugging away at it and touring and endless just back and forth across the country, they finally started to get recognized for what they are. But that was after years of being mocked in the music
Yeah,
industry by some of the guys who are
right.
supposed to be rock music and you're not, by people who didn't understand a blonde metal lead singer, things like that. So there's some adversity here that these girls have gone through.
Good, good. And so where does the women's fiction aspect come in for you?
So I think that fiction drives strictly towards women is something that is relatable on
Yes,
an emotional level to a woman
right.
versus to anyone. Now, of course, a woman can read a horror novel and be totally fine. Doesn't have
Oh
to
yeah.
be lumped into a women's fiction horror novel or
Right.
whatever. But I feel like there are there are things that are scary for just women, by the way.
Yes. Oh
We're not
yeah.
talking about
Oh yeah.
um
Now I have a friend who actually writes women's fiction horror, and
okay.
that's why I laughed, because I'm like, see, you're not by yourself. I'm just saying.
Right. So, and like Stephen King doesn't write for just women and men, right? Like he
Correct.
writes for everybody. So that
Right.
kind of genre. But when you're talking about women's fiction, at least for me, you're talking about themes and a stylistic approach that
Yes.
women can relate to. The
Yes.
concept of friendship, the concept of
Yes.
growth,
Yes.
of maturity, of
Right.
finding partnerships. These are like themes that women kind of look for,
Hmm.
and may not be as important in a book that a guy reads.
Okay.
But I do think that women need to breed and foster the idea of
Yes.
community, of
Yes.
friendship, of support.
Yes.
And those are things I look for when I read a fiction book and kind of assign it into the women's fiction category. These are
Okay.
romance novels, though, because there are happy ever and after evers and happy for now. So you
Right.
get your happy ending here. But they definitely are a little bit, there's some work to do to get there. There's some fraught to overcome here.
Right. Now you had said previously about the friendships of the women too, the five of them are integral to what's going on, and that's some stuff that they're growing through there also.
Yes. So basically, the story as it starts is Emmy is book one, and she is their lead singer. She's their manager. She's sort of their front woman, the person
Right.
who, when you reach out the second, she's the one, or her manager's the one that's going to get back to you.
Right.
And she is, unfortunately or fortunately for the girls, the first one to fall. She's the first
Okay.
one to take it, but she's very prideful and she's very stubborn and she's very private and protective because she's been hurt before.
Right.
She's been abused before. So she has this history of, when a guy walks up, anybody walks up to her and wants to be nice, they're expecting something. They're gonna take advantage of you. So
Yeah.
she has this wall up that Simon, her significant other, has to work through.
Right.
And he tries to relate to her a little too early.
Okay.
He tries to put himself on her level a little too early. He calls her an actress because she has this stage persona that she is, where she's real tough and she's this. But you're just an actress, right? Like you're not really that person. And she's, how dare you assume that you know who I am? So there's that animosity, but she's a toughie to get through. And
Yeah.
her friends at the time, the other bandmates, are watching this happen with kind of curiously.
Right.
But once Emmy's through that, and the rest of the girls have a similar situation with a significant other in their lives, Emmy's the one in the background saying, "Oh, look who's laughing now." You know, not stupid, now do I? But they rely on each other. You know, there's almost fist fight in here. There's definite like tension between the girls because they're changing so fast. They've known each other for decades, but within the course of say 6 months, their dynamic as a friendship, their dynamic as a band completely changes.
Now, is that because they're getting recognized?
And it's because these people coming into their lives, these guys coming into their lives. So some of it is that the fact that they're trying to get recognized. The other part is that what they're working for becomes more about the life that they're going to live once they're done with music rather than the moment that they're in. And they take somebody else's outside perspective to bring that up because they don't see it. They see what they're doing right now. They see the music right now, the touring, the producing, the whatever they're doing right now. But other people come in and say, you know, you're in your mid-30s now. You've been doing this a long time.
Right.
What's next? Like, you're not going to be able to do this forever. Yes,
unless
we can.
You're Keith Richards.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, so, but the goal is for them, for some of them, is to not have to do this forever, to be able to produce for new months, to be able to bring up new talent, to be able to retire on their investments, all the things that they've done over the years.
Right.
And some of them want to have families and they just can't find the time to make it happen. So the course of how much their minds change in a short period of time creates some tension in a really long-term friendship. And it would. I mean, if you had a friend for 20 years and all of a sudden in 6 months, somebody that just surprised you at every turn, that might create some friction. And that's what it is.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's, you know, it's interesting because there are so many people, and this is said a lot, but I don't know that it's internalized a lot. Life can really change within one heartbeat and the next. You know, if something happens or if a new idea is presented to you, even if an idea that's been presented to you 47 times, that 48th time with that person at that moment when you are feeling that feeling can shift your whole perspective. And if you've all been on the same page primarily for 20 years, and then someone finally decides that this is not what they want in the same way anymore, it makes you kind of look at it and say, well, what's wrong with it? This is what we've done for 20 years. Why do you need to change now? Are we not good enough? What are you missing? You've loved us forever. And so there's a defensive-ness to don't change, because if you change, then I have to change and I'm not ready to change.
Our whole dynamic changes. And you said you can try something 47 times and the 48th time is when it sticks. That was me finding my husband. So I've been online dating for over a decade, a long time. And I just that one day when I logged in, his picture popped up. He had just joined, and that changed the trajectory of my entire life. Yeah. So these kind of things happen in our day-to-day life, even if we don't really see them when they pop up. Emmy was actually really obsessed with Simon before she ever even met him because he's an actor. And she knew who he was to begin with. So it kind of started as like a fan relationship, but she wasn't going to tell him that.
Right.
Like, she's not cards on the table. When he comes to her first and says, I've been a fan of yours forever. I was at your concert last week and I'm just amazed that you're a real person and all that. She's not going to be like, oh, I just love your shows too. Some kind of person she is. No. So there's definitely kind of some sticking points. And a couple of the other have some sticking points with their guys. You know, I have a single dad here with a daughter that's under 10. He has a lot to lose.
Absolutely.
So he's a little bit hesitant when someone shows interest and wants a part of his life. You know, everything's been fine in his life for the past however many years. I'm good, really. I'm good, really, even though he's not good, really. Yeah. So there is some trope in here. There are some common themes in here. Yeah. And I'm hoping that it'll be relatable to a lot of different readers because it's really 5 different stories.
Okay. Well, and I think, you know, I love the relatable stuff, and I love the bringing some realism in, because I think it makes people feel like like you would actually be able to go like have coffee with them somewhere, and
Yeah.
when they have some downtime. And tropes are there for a reason. It is always funny to me that people are like, oh well, I don't write tropes, and I'm like, well, how do you do then? Because tropes are
Right.
there just like cliches. To
Right.
me, you take the trope, best friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, forced proximity. You take those tropes and then you put your spin on it. But people like to know what they're getting into sometimes. And it's very comforting. Like, I know I write more cozy mystery than anything else, but one reason that people come to cozy mysteries is that they always know there's going to be justice. One reason that people always go to romances is that they're fully aware that at the end there will be either a happily ever after, which we call an HEA for people who are listening, or a happily for now, which is the HFN. And you know that no matter what they're going through, they are going to get through it intact and even changed. And so, like, the trope adds that, oh, I love enemies to lovers stories. And so you
Right.
might try that out because you know you like that kind, but then that author hopefully is going to surprise you by putting their own spin on it, because they're not all the same. It always makes me laugh when people are like, well, I mean, I just read this the other day, and I'm like, okay, so you and I write a story. You write, we're both going to write a story about a single father who wants to date a rock star. Yours is going to be completely different from mine. We could even have the same exact sentence. I have a series of books that the first sentence is the exact same for all 5 stories by 5 authors, and every story is completely different, even though it starts with the exact same sentence, because you're bringing your life history in. Like you said, you're a huge fan, so then that gives you a different perspective. And I mean, so research wise, did you dig in? Did you kind of make your own stuff?
So there's a ton of research involved in this book because I do teach creative writing, and getting into the Writers Month, which is November, by the way.
Very exciting.
I teach creative writing to people, and one of the things that I teach is that you have to learn the stuff that your characters already know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that your characters already know or are supposed to know that you may not have any idea how it works. And so you have to become an expert, a quasi-expert, a Google expert on all of these things that you're supposed to know, because you're supposed to write about them for 200 or 300 pages. So yes, there is a lot of research and things that go into the rock industry. Fortunately, I'm a fan, so a lot of it's I already know, but I write side stories about the characters too. Like on my website, if you go to my website, there's side stories, epilogues, kind of prequels and things that come out.
Awesome.
And that involves very specific, like, other rock stars that these girls are kind of dealing with or befriending, or kind of foil to the other girls. So you have to know their backstory, where they grew up, what band they were in, how old they are, who their significant others were, in order to make the story believable.
Yeah.
But in the case of the books, I mean, the research for the books, Emmy is a lawyer. I know nothing about law. Nothing. Zero. Again, chef, author, podcaster, not. Dee, my bassist in the band, is in the medical profession when she's not playing music.
Right.
I don't know how to be a pediatric physician. I know nothing about it. So all of a sudden I'm Googling like weird pediatric diseases because this girl works in diagnostics, and I need to know what the symptoms of whatever Graves' disease are.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that you have to learn. Like, for example, Rye is a huge fan of fine art. I don't know anything about fine art. I didn't go to college for art. So you have to do yourself the favor of doing the research and teaching yourself locations, where they live, what's London like. If they're walking around in London, you need to make it believable that you could actually go to these places.
Yeah.
Writing cozy mysteries, you need to know about the towns that they're taking place in, or the buildings they're taking place in, because it needs to be believable for your audience.
Right.
So yes, there's a tremendous amount of research whenever you write anything, really, whether it's a research paper or a novel, as I've come to learn. But the more believable, the more relatable, the more work you can put into it on the front end, the more immersive it is, for whoever you're giving it to, that then it needs to fall into the book.
Yes. One of my favorite things about reading books is when I have an author who has the characters think in terms that I would not think in, because of what they do or their hobby or the way they grew up or whatever. If you can pull me in with that kind of stuff, I will be yours forever. That is, it's just one of the things that I love, because like somebody who is a fisherman thinks differently than someone who is a lawyer.
Sure.
You're going to liken things differently. You're going to, if something's heavy and you have a lawyer who, is at the gym all the time, they're probably going to think something about, one of the bars that they picked up yesterday. Whereas a fisherman's going to be like, that was as heavy as trying to pull in that catch last Thursday. Do you know what I mean? And so I love when they are like immersed in what they do, because then I feel like they're alive.
Right. And these girls, they all play different instruments. They all have a very different perspective on the importance of that instrument or that ability in a group. So Emmy will say that the lyrics and singing is really important because it's what pulls you in. It's what gives you the interest and gets you emotionally involved. Whereas Rye will tell you that you can't have a rock band without a guitar in it, because that's not a rock band. It's like an orchestra. Right. And then he'll tell you that if you didn't have a bass line, every single rock song that you like sounds like crap, because there's no there's a rhythm aspect. There's a piece of it that's missing. It feels flat. Destiny's going to tell you that if the drum kit is missing from the stage, nobody's going to be moving, nobody's going to be dancing, nobody's going to be having a good time, because that's what percussion does. And if you listen to Marilyn, who's my fifth girl, who is the keyboard / producer, she's going to tell you that if you put all 4 instruments up on stage and don't put somebody behind them with a little bit of mixing ability and the ability to pull things together, you're going to end up with a cacophony that sounds like, a 6th grade marching band. Right. So you kind of have to have this balance. And that's something that the girls do for each other. They balance each other out because they all have very different personalities. I have a gossip. I have a prideful kind of snide person. I have a very maternal person. So these girls balance each other out. They've known each other so long that they know each other's roles. So again, when the roles start to change a little bit, that's when kind of things get a little bit dicey.
Start rocking the boat.
Yes.
So they've been playing for 20 years, and in there, they went to college to be these things, but they were still touring while they were going to college to be these things.
So they're all about the same age. So what they were doing for the first 3 or 4 years, they were kind of practicing. They were a cover band to start with. You don't have a lot of material when you're 12, 13, 14 years old. So whatever you like, whatever you can learn how to play.
Oh, yeah.
And played like local clubs, bars when they were underage. Destiny's the oldest. She would like sneak them in. She would negotiate with the owners, like, we're not going to drink, it'll be fine. And then some of them drank.
Of course.
But that's what you're going to do when you're 16 and nobody's watching you. But they sort of play in local venues. They really would play anywhere that they were allowed to play. And so they continued to do that like on nights and weekends while they were going to school in their late teens and early 20s. And then as they got a little bit older, they were taking some classes online while they were touring in their early 20s, things like that. There are times, because Dee is a physician and Emmy is a physician, where they had to do practicals, like they actually had to go do residencies. So they would take time out of their touring schedule and they would do other types of appearances. They would do record company days or like record store days in order to keep their music going, or they would use that as a time to record or write lyrics. So they've always figured out a way to kind of balance things. I joke in the book a lot about how there were a whole lot of college textbooks all over the table in the RV that they used to drive back and forth.
Right.
Somebody was always studying something, except for Destiny, who was the party girl. So somebody was always studying something. But they found a way to make it work in between destinations, like I said, on nights and weekends, virtually, whatever they needed to do. And they still do, because these are things that are important to them. Obviously, music's very important to them. They are important to each other. but they are not just musicians. There's more that they're capable of doing in this life. And I think
Right.
there's more than you, whoever's listening to this, are capable than what you just do on your day-to-day
Yes,
basis. You're capable of so much more than that. And that's
absolutely.
something I try to inspire women. I try to empower women to really do what you love, do what pays the bills, but also
Right.
do what you love doing, because it makes your life so much more fulfilling that way.
Absolutely. I am fully on board with you. I mean, I have a full-time job and I write. Have been writing for 22 years. I have been writing solidly for 18 years and something like that. I've been publishing for 16. I have a lot of stuff out. That's awesome. However, I still have a job because I like a paycheck every other Friday.
And
And
medical
I like
benefits,
that paycheck to come from somebody else.
yes, and medical benefits and time off are nice. So,
Yes,
um,
yes. I love doing conferences where my job is paying me to be at the conference, where I'm like,
yeah,
I'm signing books right now on their dollar,
it's great.
because it's my time off. And if that's what I want to do with it, that's totally up to me. But I also think, and this is, I guess, a question if you want to answer it, do you feel in your own life as well as in the girl's life that there is less um pressure to do whatever's popular at the moment because you don't have to make that much money from it?
So, yeah, I mean, they definitely balance pretty well. The girls that hold
Okay.
down jobs other than music, like for example, Rye doesn't do a lot other than music. Destiny doesn't
Okay.
do a lot other than music. But what they do is they work on promotion. They tour with other
Right.
bands. If there's a band who's down a drummer, maybe there's an illness or an injury, Destiny will go on the road with them, and she collects a fee
Oh,
for them, kind of offset when she's not working.
right.
But they have the ability, thanks to Emmy's knowledge and their management and their promotional things, to be able to sustain even if they're not touring all the time anymore.
Oh, that's awesome.
Investments. So that's good. But really, Emmy and Dee like to stay sharp. They like to keep those medical kind of repertoires going. They like to be involved. I think if you take a diagnostician and you put them in a room with somebody who has an illness, eventually they're going to figure out what it is. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like an innate thing that they just do. They don't mean to do it.
Right.
But I do think that there is a balance between the fact that they love both of these things.
Yes.
I'm to the point now in my life, in Jill's life, that I only like to do what I like doing. If I
Yes.
don't like doing something, like if I didn't like teaching creative writing at a library on a Saturday, then I wouldn't do it because
Right.
I'd be somewhere else on Saturday. If I
Right.
didn't like, going to book conferences and talking to people about books, if I didn't like cooking for people, I wouldn't be doing it. So
Right.
I feel like by the time you're in your 30s, I'm still in my mid 30s. Okay.
Okay.
A couple more years. I would say that you're figuring out where you belong, where your niche is, what you enjoy.
Yes.
And these girls are in their mid 30s. So they've
Right.
gotten through the period of like trying everything to see what sticks or doing something just because they feel like they have to.
Right.
Now they're more selective. And when you're more selective and you put a value on your time, it becomes a lot easier to find balance of what you're getting paid for. Like you said, it's nice when you have time off that's paid for because you
Yes.
can balance your fun stuff with your work stuff and have
Right.
time for everything. And that's kind of how they approach their multiple careers.
Okay. Interesting, because that was definitely, I have a brother who is he is sponsored by Beard Guitars. And so he, for a long time, that's all he did until COVID came, because he was playing in LA and he was playing in New York at the city, and so there was enough, and he played a lot in New Orleans. There was enough coming in that he didn't have to do that. But then COVID happened and no one was allowing you to play at wineries anymore or anything like that because
Nothing
COVID
was open.
happened.
Nothing was
Right.
open anyway.
So he got a full-time job and he was just like, oh. And I was like, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've had a job for 20 years. Well, 17. I took some time off for my kid in between, but I've been working pretty consistently for the last 16, 17 years. I said, because if you can make it all work together, you don't have to feel like you have to follow the trends, like with writing. To me, if it's a trend and I'm in the middle of it, I'm excited about that, but I don't have to chase them, because I can't make my mortgage if I don't sell enough books. And I guess that was something for me that was really important. And so, like you were saying, once you start figuring out what goes where and how they all fit together, then you start being more selective with your time. And that's a beautiful place to be. But I bet that makes a really cool women's fiction theme, and romance theme, is what do I want enough to make it happen?
Yeah, and what do I have time for? Because
Yes.
they're spending a lot of time keeping themselves relevant, because
Yes.
after 20 years in the music industry, the limelight should have been dim a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they're managing to keep it going because of elbow grease, and because of popularity, because of social media, and because of constantly being in front of it. So when you have somebody come in and say, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Emmy's seeing dollar signs. Like, she's seeing, how much does that $5 cost me? If we were recording in a studio, how much is $5? How much does 5 minutes cost? How much of me can I give you, knowing what I have waiting for me somewhere else? And as you have these other priorities and these other things that are important, you start to forget what really matters in life. And this is a very common thing that I think happens to people, is they get a little too bogged down. There's too much going on. They're too dedicated, that they don't stop, and they're realizing, well, you're working for all this stuff, but you're not even enjoying what you have, because you're so busy to try to keep it that you can't get your head above water. I worked 2 jobs for a lot of years, and I never ever enjoyed the money I made, because I was too busy trying to make more money. Like, you're constantly just in this rat race, and they've been that way for so long that they think it's normal. So when somebody comes in and says, don't you just want to sit and like have some Thai food with me and like watch a sitcom?
No. What is that? No.
I haven't done that since I was a kid. Like, I don't even know what that means, because we should be doing other things. And Emmy's kind of a workhorse, so she kind of pushes them around a lot. But no, it's a very interesting dynamic that happens to people as they get older, women specifically, where you start to back up from your own life a little bit, and you start to kind of assess what's going on in your own life, especially if you have children or you have a job that's really demanding. You start to step out and you're like, okay, if this all ended tomorrow, what would I be sad about? What am I really losing here? Like, what am I doing here? So that dynamic is really interesting when you throw somebody else in who doesn't see the world that they see the world differently than the girls do. So that's really fun for me to write. I hope that readers who read Second Saga see that and can relate to that they're past the point of it being fanciful, of love being something fanciful. It needs to be a little bit practical. It should be scary to have somebody come into your life that you're not sure why they're there, how you're going to relate to them, how to talk to them, because you're so out of practice that you don't know anything, because you spent so much time dealing with your own little circle. And the 5 girls are a very tight circle. So
now, are all 5 out?
The 5th. Okay, so the first 4 books are out.
Okay.
Yep. Emmy came out in 2016, so it's Emmy's Pride. I actually have them here for you, so I can show you.
Yay! Oh, look at how pretty that is.
Yep. So that's Emmy's Pride, book 1.
Okay.
She came out in 2016. Book 2, Rye's Proof, is my guitarist. This is Rye.
Nice.
It's kind of shiny, but anyway,
I love it.
In 2018.
Okay.
D came out in April of last year.
Okay.
After everything shut off, so the promo for this book kind of got lost. But this is my girl D. D's my bassist, and this is the single dad down here in the corner, Charlie.
I love it.
I'm kind of low key in love with. And then,
of course,
Destiny's book came out in April of this year, 2021, and I think the cover designer did a killer job with this one. Beautiful. I love the green, so pretty. So this is book 5, or book 4. Book 5 will be out later this year, either December or January. Ooh. And that'll be Marilyn's Promise, and that will round out this 5-book set. Okay.
So what are we doing after that?
So my next foray into writing is actually nonfiction, which is crazy. I'm going for romance for a short break.
All right. Hold on. Let me recalibrate my brain. I was not ready for that. Because we didn't talk about this last time. So, okay. I'm settled in. I'm ready. What are we doing nonfiction?
The good news is just like a romance, it does have a happily ever after ending. So I'll give you the happy ending. And the reason why this book came to be, or why it started, was because about 4 years ago, I decided to start changing my life.
Oh.
I'm a chef, as you guys know, and already, because you've heard me say it several times. And chefs are notoriously hedonistic, short-sighted, self-abusers, substance addicts. It's bad. Okay. We're bad. We're very bad influences. And you should never
Oh,
ever
I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's part of the deal when you work in a kitchen like we do. But you should never ever listen to a chef give you nutritional advice. But that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm hoping you'll listen to me anyway, because
I would give you a chance. I would give
Thank
you a chance. Yeah, absolutely.
I've spent the past 4 years clearing my rail. So Clearing the Rail is the nonfiction book that's coming out later this year, early
love
next year,
that.
right after Second Saga finishes up. And it is a nonfiction. It's like a half memoir, self-help / half recipe guide and meal plan to help you clear your rail. So
Yeah.
for a chef, clearing the rail is the idea of taking down all of the tickets that are hanging on the rail over your head. So a ticket comes in from the dining room, you hang it on the rail, and then you work left to right, clearing all of your tickets. For the layperson who doesn't work in a kitchen, clearing your rail means you have all of this crap in your head, all of these lies that you tell yourself, all of these self-defeating little remarks that you make about how you're never going to be happy, how you're not worth trying anymore. You've already tried and you've failed. Remember that boyfriend in high school that told you you're fat? All that crap that's in here that you just can't get rid of.
Yes.
We're going to start taking those tickets down one at a time and looking at them and assessing whether or not it's garbage, and then throwing it on the floor where it belongs, so that you can move forward. You can clear this off so that you can start over and be the person that you were always meant to be. And I'm going to give you a recipe so you know how to cook afterwards, which is very helpful.
I love that. I love that so much. So you will be coming back on to talk about the nonfiction book.
Please.
I'm just letting you know now. That was not a request. I'll
fine.
Yeah, I'll let you know. You just let me know when it comes out. We'll get you on. We'll talk about it. We'll go through stuff. We'll clear our own rails.
Yeah, and I want to interview you about how you cleared your rail, because I'm sure you've been through some stuff in your decades of life. Who have cleared their own rails, who've really sat back and said, what's going to make me happy in this world? What's important to me? What can I contribute to this world? Because I'm not doing that right now, and I should be. Because life's a party. If you're not having fun, what are you doing?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the whole impetus for clearing the rail.
Okay. Because sometimes you may be putting some out there, but you could be doing more to make yourself happy. Like you've reached. I have gone through spaces where I've reached a plateau, and I'm like, well, maybe that's it. Like it's okay. This is good. Like half my rail is cleared, and I'm like, no, you're doing great. And it's perfectly fine to stay here. And then eventually, I'm like, yeah, nope, I need to keep going. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, can you just stay clear? Like, why do we have to keep bringing more crap up?
Oh yeah, we talk about that.
Diving in can be a beautiful thing. My mom was a waitress for 25 years. I know all about rail clearing. I used to be a bus girl. So here's a story for you.
Oh yeah, there's a good one. So
I love stories. I worked at a diner. I was very young, so nobody tell anybody, but I was 12 and I was a bus girl, and I know. And so I've actually had a job since I was 10. I used to work in a candy store, and then I babysat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did candy and vegetables. So I sold watermelons and Tootsie Rolls, and I got to weigh everything. That was always, and that's how I learned to count. Was that, and my mom bringing home tips. She would hand me the cash, and I would have to spread it out into denominations, and then I would have to tell her exactly how much it is. So if you ever need pennies rolled, I'm your girl. I'm your girl. So yeah, so I was a bus girl, and it was Saturday morning. Huge breakfast. It was a breakfast diner.
Yeah.
I needed to fill the sugar containers. One bucket is marked S and the other one is not. They're both white. Misty grabs.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, every sugar had salt. And it was a big coffee place. And the collective what got me busted down to toast butterer. So for like 3 weeks, I was only allowed to butter toast.
I can't imagine. Now, I can't imagine that persnickety customer coming in and taking the sugar dish and putting her sugar in her coffee and pulling her glasses up her nose and tasting it and be like, "Blah!" Because there's so much coffee that got ruined at that shop that week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was bad. It was bad because it wasn't just the little old ladies. There was a lot of tables of farmers and truckers.
They don't play.
They were not happy.
They don't play.
And yeah, and they didn't care how old I was. They were like, ah! And I was like, I'm really sorry. And they're like, and we're toast butter. I was like, all right, fine.
Banished to the toast buttering station.
Yeah. So I was a professional toast butterer for a while. You know, I mean, everybody does what they need to do. So we have bypassed the 40-minute mark. So I knew we were going to. But so, okay, so we know what's coming next. And so tell me where we can find you and where we can find what's out already so that we are primed. As soon as the last one comes out, we are fiending for it. Tell me where we're finding you.
Best place to start is my website, which is my author name. It's Jill Marie Denton, Denton, like the city in Dallas, city near Dallas in Texas.
Yeah.
Denton.com. So JillMarieDenton.com is the best place to go. Of course, you can find me on BookBub and Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I'm sold everywhere that you can buy books, pretty much, ebook and paperback. So you can find me.
Okay.
For Clearing the Rail, you want to go to Anchor, which is Spotify's podcast service, and just search Clearing the Rail. And my weekly podcast will be there for you. Every Sunday I drop new stuff.
Okay.
And then I'm around. So I'm doing creative writing here in my home state of Delaware over the next 6 months. And then starting in April of next year, it's like a world tour, baby. I'm going everywhere. I'm going to Pittsburgh. I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to Tampa. I'm going all over the place. So if you go to JillMarieDenton.com, all of my cons, all the places I'm going to be in person are going to be listed on there for you.
Okay.
And I really hope I see you because I would love to sign your book in purple pen. I do purple pen if you're in person. So
that's really funny. I used to do purple pen too. And then I moved.
In person is purple pen.
Yep. I have been purple pen. I love them. I love them. And then I moved to my own pens and they were blue, but they're like an electric blue. So I was like, okay, this is slightly all right. Might have to move back to the purple, thinking about it. So the places that you're going to be, are they conferences or are they book signings or are they both?
Some of them are both. Some of them are book signings and some are both. So like, for example, I'm going to be at Authors in the Steel City in Pittsburgh in April of next year. Yeah. I'm going to be at a day of wine, romance, and more in Columbia, New Jersey next April. That's definitely.
Oh, are you really?
I am, because I love Leslie.
I was going to be there.
Okay.
I was going to be there, but now I found out Malice Domestic, which is Cozy Conference, they have moved their weekend to that weekend. So I had to call Roz and I'm like,
now we're all on top of each other because all these things have to be rescheduled. But like I'm going to be doing the Indie Book Conference in Tampa in June. So yeah, they're a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of everything. I like to do signings anywhere that'll have me. So anywhere that lets me.
You are considered indie published? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
All right. I'm indie. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna have your links in the description box. I am going to throw out the question that I have thrown out, the offer that I've thrown out before. If you guys are coming up with any questions that Jill Marie or myself can answer, please drop them down in the comments. I will make sure that she sees them or that I see them or someone will see them. We'll make sure they get answered if we can help you. We want you to learn if you want to learn, and we're here for it. So I am so excited. Thank you so much again for coming back.
You're welcome.
And doing this the second time. This was fantastic. It's a slightly different fantastic than last time, but still very fantastic. I think maybe a little extra fantastic because we talked more about the nonfiction and that kind of thing. So I'm good with this. But you are definitely coming back for nonfiction book.
I will.
We'll have to talk about all of that. So, all right. Well, thank you again, Jill Marie Denton, for being here with us today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, middle of the night, and blowing kisses. Bye bye.